welcome to Our Time.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're more
great.
than welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to have your company once again because we have a jam-packed program. 3 guests today.
Three.
We have 3 special guests on. We're finding out a little bit about where we actually make this program. We're also talking about cabaret because cabaret is big all over the country and we've just gone through that whole spat of cabaret festivals. And we're meeting a young lady who has actually put together a new show from scratch.
With help from you.
Oh, well, yes,
I have
but
to say.
she did a lot.
She did.
Because she was the girl.
Yes.
But we're finding out about beer.
We are. Welcome to the program, Craig.
Thank
Craig
you.
Bassford is here to talk about
Beer.
All things
yes,
beer.
all things beer. I'm just fascinated because just talking earlier about the flavours that you can do today is, yeah, amazing.
Well, what I found most interesting about beer generally is that it's been around for so long.
It has been around for a long time. I mean, way back when, it was currency, as good as. People didn't want water or they wanted beer.
Well, part of the reason they didn't want water because they didn't know what had died or done other things in the water before they drank it.
There was a stage where drinking beer was actually better for you than drinking the water.
Yes.
And they didn't understand why,
No.
but it was the boiling process that killed the bugs that were, as you say, in the stagnant water that you would normally get.
Do you know how beer then was actually invented in the first instance?
I think it came down to wet bread and people drinking this thing and going, hang on, this tastes all right, and I feel a bit funny about it. Much like wine, fruit falling from the tree, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was an accidental discovery, but
And then
like
it's
the
been
best
refined
discoveries.
and refined. And you've refined yourself.
Yeah.
All of these under the name of...
Big Shed Brewing.
Is it a big shed that you're brewing?
It is a big shed, not as big as we used to brew in. The history of the Big Shed name is actually from myself and my business partner Jason. He started home brewing at Lindock, and he had a massive agricultural shed on his property. Had all the toys and bits and pieces that we used to enjoy, Scalextric tracks and all of that sort of stuff, like a real man cave.
Right.
Yeah, we had a really good time there. But the best part of it was it had a mechanics pit, and what that allowed us to do was to ferment our beer, our homebrew beer, at consistent temperature because it would hold temperature really well, and that's really important for making good quality beer. So that's actually where the name Big Shed Brewing came from. But we are still in a big shed, which is the Royal Park now.
And why did you move?
Because we needed a commercial facility.
Oh, okay.
So Jace moved down to the city for work, and he was looking for a place to rent that would house all our equipment. And I didn't think it was fair that I asked a mate to find a place with a ridiculously large shed. So we found a small warehouse space.
Yeah.
We're there, and we were brewing beer on the weekends and things like that. And it's a little industrial area, a little industrial complex.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be there during the day. We'd have our normal jobs to go to. So we'd do stuff on the weekends and at night. It must look really suspect to the guys around the area.
It would
because
be,
at
yes,
night
exactly.
it'd come alive,
Lights
but during the day, nothing.
Now, so how did you turn what's, I guess, the normal brewing process for beer into all these different flavours?
Yeah.
So we'll have a look as you talk, if
For
that's
sure.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just...
The brewing process from beer to beer doesn't change a great deal. The ingredients you use change, and the sort of variables you use change.
So this one is...
That's our FE, our American Pale. That's the most popular beer we make.
Right.
So it's a 5.5% alcohol beer.
Yes. What's the average?
Average for, say, a full strength domestic beer would be about 4.5. So you'll find that craft breweries do have higher alcohol percentages
And this one
on
here?
average. That's our Californicator. That's a West Coast IPA. So it's an Indian Pale Ale, which is a variant on the American Pale. The way I describe it to people is if you had our FE American Pale, the stereo is up to volume 7. The West Coast IPA is volume 11. It's all the flavours are cranked right up.
Right,
Wow.
okay. And this one?
That's a little fun one we make. That's our Cold Chisel. That's a German Pale. So it's a Cold style beer. It is probably best described as an ale masquerading as a lager, and it's for those people who come in to the brewery and say to me, I don't drink craft beer. I don't like that fruity stuff. What have you got? And so they can drink that. It's lighter in alcohol, 4.2%, and people just that's where they find a lot of people get their entry into craft beer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Frankenbrown. That's our hoppy brown ale. It's the first beer we actually ever made through our system in December 2013.
So that's a dark beer, obviously.
It is a dark beer. It is the summer beer for dark beer lovers. It's got a real chocolate and coffee flavour through it, but then a big hit of citrus from the hops.
And this one?
That's a different one altogether. That's a cider. So that's our apple and cherry cider, the cherry popper, 8.5%. 90% apples, 10% cherries, all from Ashton in the Adelaide Hills.
I'm surprised the lid's still on that one. With people around here wanting to
And again,
try.
that's the other one. That's our other
Oh, we've
culture.
already seen that
Yeah,
one,
that's our core range.
Well,
of beers.
that's amazing. Now, I'm not a beer drinker. Oops. In fact, I hardly drink alcohol at all. But so how would you introduce me to a beer like this?
First things first, I'd find out what you like. If you come into the brewery straight off the bat, you know, you're looking around, you're looking a bit nervous. We get that quite a bit. Yeah, absolutely, we do. Yeah, absolutely. It can be.
Don't know what to do next.
It can be.
please.
Yeah, it can be an intimidating thing for someone who wants to get into craft beer and experience new flavours and things like that, but don't know where to go. So my first question will always be, what do you normally drink? And it might be, I drink
Tea and coffee.
Cooper's Pale. It might be tea and coffee. In which case, if you said to me I really like coffee, I'd hit you up with a Frankenbrown first.
Okay.
Because the palette of beers, you know, the palette of flavours that we can play with as a craft brewery, far surpass anything I think you can do anywhere else.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Fascinating, yes, but the one that it did mention before was called Like a Golden Gate.
Yeah, absolutely. We made a beer for a beer festival last year called Golden Stout Time,
Golden
and that's
Stout.
a beer. We made a stout.
No, I just think
Yeah,
that'd be
we made a
amazing.
stout. We took the hops, not out of it, but we backed the hops right up, so it's a lot less bitter than a beer would normally be, so
Yeah.
people understand it. And then we infuse it with honeycomb, toffee, and vanilla extracts.
Well, see, that's why I'm not crazy for beer. I'm not crazy for the bitter taste.
Yeah, well,
I don't find that particularly refreshing.
Well, that's the thing. Like in craft brewing, especially, we can find something for you.
Yeah.
I would like to think. Like someone says to me they don't like beer, I say to them, well, that's like saying you don't like solids, because there's so many different varieties of beer that you can try. Like there's, you know, from our cultures and like those beery flavours that as people understand them, big hoppy flavours, American pales, IPAs, to sours. So there's beer that's like it's got a real sour taste to it, and yeah, it's amazing.
I find that fascinating though, but I suppose it's the same with wine. You know, there's all the different flavours that come with wine, and it's not dissimilar when you think about it, because it's all natural product basically.
Absolutely.
And so, how did you get into it though? How did you really? Obviously, there's some chemistry involved in making beer. There's certainly a lot of chemistry and understanding how the different flavours react and temperatures and things like that. Personally, for myself, Jason and I, we got into it as homebrewers, and a lot of trial and error. You said that before, but from homebrew, did you just start with a kit where you mix this with this with
Absolutely.
this?
We literally started.
There?
We literally started with the kit and the kilo, and we tried it, and we thought that's okay, but I reckon we can do better.
How long did it take you then to actually get to something that you were actually enjoying?
So I would say probably 3 or 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then, but that's because as craft brewers or any artisan or any artist, I think there's always someone you look at a lot more critically. And you can always go, I could do that a bit better, I could change it a little bit more. You have to sort of make peace with the fact that that's good, and I don't need to change it anymore, even though you probably could if you wanted to. You'll never be 100% happy.
That's what I meant with the question though, but you've got to understand, I guess, the flavours, the flavonoids or the additives.
Yep.
Was that something you needed to study, or was it?
How
did it work?
We did do some basic courses out at TAFE. TAFE here have some great courses, and they're actually doing some more intense ones now.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've had people on from TAFE talking about exactly that.
Yeah.
So you're a product of that.
Yep, I did the all grain course with Stephen Nelson, and he certainly got a lot more into the chemistry of it and the science of it that we didn't know, I guess, from a technical point of view, but we understood.
You just wanted to drink
and we had a
beer.
feel
Come
for
on.
it. We had a feel for it. Of course, we love
And
drinking
they
beer.
had lots of friends that would help them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not short of a friend in the brewery, that's for sure.
So what do you think the future's going to be for you?
Personally, for us, we're actually looking at some expansion at the moment. We sell beer now from everywhere from WA to New South Wales. We can't keep up. So it's about how we can meet that demand.
So what's your day job now?
This is what I do.
Funny about that.
Isn't it?
So you love your day job.
Absolutely.
You love going into work. What about the smell? Do you find the smell in the brewery?
The smell is magnificent. The smell on a brew day is one of the greatest things. It's
worth getting up for.
It's like a bakery volume, just cranked,
That's
beautiful.
interesting, isn't it? Because the bakery wafts out into the street.
Yeah. Oh, look, we get guys who come in. You know, they might be 3 or 4 doors down, and they'll come in the afternoon. We knew you were brewing. morning that we've had a thirst. We've had a thirst since lunchtime. Had a thirst since lunchtime.
Thank you so much for joining us, and seriously,
Craig.
good luck with all of these.
Yeah, wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, and it's just great to hear a story like yours, starting from the beginning and moving through.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
So, Craig, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Now,
again.
we're in a studio, of course, making this program that we bring you each week with somebody who actually is in charge of this studio on a daily basis. Andre, welcome to OurTime for the first time in front of instead of
being
behind.
out there somewhere.
Thank you. Feels a little strange, actually.
I'm sure it does.
I'm used to being over there, sort
Yes.
of behind, making sure everything's okay.
Everybody says that.
It seems to be all right. From here, it looks pretty
well,
good.
you're here and the
Yeah.
pictures are up and
Yeah.
set's looking pretty. And Andre, but you didn't start in television. You've done all sorts of stuff in your life.
That's right. So,
list.
And I know you run a talent show, so I've had a similar sort of background. I've done acting, loved acting. I've done dance, done flamenco in my time, theatre. So theatre sports, actually. Was in a team. We won the finals. That was good fun. Something a little bit crazy. So I've always enjoyed live performance and, you know, things that have audiences.
Presenting to the public, I suppose.
Yeah, and not always presenting. I've also done a lot of things where, you know, I do a bit of filmmaking in my hobby time as well. So for me, it's really about entertainment.
But then ending up here in a university and running a studio is,
Yeah.
I suppose, a parallel line to that, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, what happened, originally when I got tutoring work at uni and the editing suites were all over the shop. So I came in here and fixed them up and got things running. And we had a TV, as you know, it had its heyday in the 50s. So this room that we're in now was built in the 70s when the building was built, roughly 78, I think, and was really falling apart. And we had a student TV program, which was called The Third Degree. And we ran that for, I think our season was about 10 episodes long before we sort of ran out of steam. But it was lots of fun, and we were running it with these really, really old cameras. And the lighting grid was a shocker that had this thing called a twist lock system where if you turned it quarter of a turn, the light would literally fall off, but for a piece of garden chain that was holding it.
Oh, no.
And so you try to focus a light, and all of a sudden it was in your hands.
Yeah.
And it was
It's
just,
amazing, though, when you look up here,
Unistrut
just
was
how
the name
good
of
all
the
this
system.
stuff is now.
And so we got all this rebuilt, thankfully, with some funding, a fair amount of funding, thankfully, in 2010, or actually late 2009. And it was about that time I got approached by John Gall, of course.
And that's how this program began.
Exactly.
But Andre, I think probably the most important thing here is that television for the future is going to change, of course, a lot. But television still needs to be made somewhere. And admittedly, with all the new technology, you can shoot wherever. You know, you don't have to be in a lit studio anymore. But the reality is a lot of stuff is still, and of necessity, is shot in a studio.
Yep.
So here you're training people to work in this environment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the big ironies I find about television production, because as we know, TV had its heyday in the 50s, and everyone was, when video came in, they said, "Will video kill the radio star?" You know, they made a song about it.
Yeah.
I think it was the Buggles. So there was always that thought, you know, will radio die? And of course, radio is more prolific than ever, and you get internet radio stations. You can tune into guys running hip-hop shows in New York, you know, live streaming. So there's actually more production being done in studios now than there ever was.
Well, how come they're
because-
closing down then?
Which one?
Well,
particularly
they're not
here.
free to airs. You're talking about the free to airs.
The free-to-air transmission of
Yeah.
44 is due to finish at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's
But
really
just generally, you mean just generally?
Yeah, I mean,
like
I
there
was
used
just
to be the
Channel 9 in Adelaide. for-
Certainly in Adelaide,
Yeah.
all of the studios have closed down in the mainstream.
Exactly, and this is the whole conundrum. This is the irony of it, is that there's more studio production being done around the world, but it's kind of centralised. And so you get these very popular internet shows that are hosted over in LA or other places. And because things have been centralised, the production's been centralised in Australia, so a lot of what used to be the control rooms for broadcast would be in Adelaide or in the capital cities, and they're now all running off servers in Sydney, as an example. They actually tried to move, at one point they tried to move our news teams, our news desks interstate. I think they were trying to run, I think it was Channel 7 News or something in
10,
Melbourne.
I think.
10
were
10?
doing,
Yeah, they were trying to run it from Melbourne, and it failed dismally because there was no connect with the community. So,
Yes.
yeah, so
That's the danger of losing that local connection, I think.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I was in the reasonably early days of television. And in those days, the people working in the station on the floor, that's where they learnt to do it. There was nowhere else to learn. So you started as usually the messenger boy, usually. There were very few female camera people then. And then they'd graduate into props, and then from props you'd go to camera 3, and then you'd work your way up to camera 1 or camera 2. And actually I'm old enough to remember when the cameras used to have 3 lenses that would revolve around for a close-up or a long shot or whatever.
You never knew which way to look.
Oh, we sort of knew where the red light was, but
Yeah.
but the point is now they are not; those opportunities aren't there. You can't go on as a rookie or a whatever the new word is.
I'll even extend your concept there a bit, your argument a bit further, to say that when you look at the big directors of photography in Australia that Australia's put out, you know, the guy that shot Mad Max and all sorts, they actually started out as news cameramen. That's where they started out, just doing framing and focus for a TV station. So television production is not just about TV, it feeds into film, it feeds into other areas of performance
really
as well. So
everything.
it's actually quite an important part.
Well, camera
of,
people are
production,
our eyes now because we're watching so much through a screen. Somebody's got to be standing behind that camera to make that possible. And that's what happens here at the uni. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Is this the only place now in South Australia?
I feel kind of lucky. I mean, obviously I'm a part of it and I helped make this happen, but I feel lucky to be part of the only, we're the only one in South Australia currently, the only tertiary institution that's actually teaching television production in a way that is, you know, with shows that are broadcast. And of course we run 3 shows currently out of the studio that are broadcast on community TV. So, but this is a unique opportunity for us to get these skills. And I've got to say, it's been a two-way process because I came in not knowing a lot of the jargon, et cetera, about, you know, a TV show. What was a rundown? I had no idea. When John approached me back in the day, I actually printed out his first rundown sheet. You know, I had no idea what a rundown was. So it's all this sort of the language and the discourse of making TV that I've learnt actually from you guys. And from people like John and our floor manager, Phil Gregory, who also worked with John, but, you know, from the beginning.
I suppose, well, Phil's older than all of us, but I suppose the reality is if we don't pass on this information, though, it'll be lost. And for both of us coming from a theatre background, there's a terminology in the theatre that now has been sort of swapped around a bit, and not everybody talks the language we understand. Or the superstitions, for that matter, like not whistling backstage, because in the old days you'd whistle to get things to fly in and out.
Go outside and knock on the door to come
we
back
do all
in.
of that and turn around and cuss and all sorts of stuff. But some of those things are the things that make it fun and make it human. And certainly with the people standing behind cameras here at the moment and with the people upstairs directing, it becomes a family unit, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
We all learn to rely on each other.
And I think I'd like to think that any of the guys here on the crew, and they're all students, current students that are here at UniSA, I'd like to think that once they've been here, it's a bit like riding a bike, they'll be able to take this knowledge, and if they want, you know, whether it's producing a show out of their shed or going somewhere else when a studio's set up, to take that knowledge with them because it's quite unique.
And that's probably going to be the future, isn't it? That's what we think the future's going to be. More independent people broadcasting their own material.
Yeah, I think so. And this is where you see, look, for example, on YouTube, you get, I don't watch these shows, but you get shows where a teenage girl is showing people how to put on makeup. And they've got millions of hits. And of course they get the advertising, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we, because it's so free, the internet is so free for anything to be produced and for anyone to watch it. And they have these niches, which is both intimidating in its scale, but also very empowering in its reach.
It's just, as the Prime Minister has been saying for a long time, you know, it's a great time to be alive, and it truly is. It's so interesting to see where we're going. Andre, thank you for that. And we'll be back with more OurTime in just a minute. Welcome back to OurTime. Would you like to introduce your daughter?
She's a dear friend too.
She is.
She's Jan Day's joining us, and because she actually does help us with the program too.
Of course, Jan, what do you do?
I'm the guest coordinator for OurTime.
I know.
I've only
that.
been doing that from the beginning of this year, but it's been enjoyable.
It's good, isn't it? It's just meeting a whole lot of different people doing different stuff.
So I
But
like.
you've had a fascinating career, and in show business, when did you start?
At the age of 17, I'd started musical theatre in the local theatre circuit and did that for quite a few years until I was offered some cabaret work at the Baron and Beef at pub north of Adelaide. Did that for 4.5 years. Friday, Saturday nights, and in the early days it was 3 or 4 nights a week.
And then you had
I did have her.
We're still
No.
talking
Yes.
cabaret, aren't we?
the truth is, the story is, Janice and I played. You were Diamond Lil, and I
Diamond
was
Lil.
with amnesia, and I was your husband, and you didn't know who I was, and she was the long lost daughter that the engines
was.
took away. Yeah, it was a comedy, of course. But then after that, you went overseas.
I did. I was asked to go in a song and dance Wild West show in Taiwan. And
So she had practice with
Yes,
us.
she did.
so I did 6 months there. It changed my life. I met an American who was also working in the theme park and ended up moving to Philadelphia and had spent almost 10 years there.
But
That long? Gosh, I didn't know that it was
Was.
that long.
yes,
Gosh.
but then she got itchy to come home. But then she got itchy to perform again.
I did.
Because you were being a good wife and hard worker in the
that's
States,
right.
weren't you? So you talked about what do I do? How do I get back into the industry? So what did you do?
Well, I decided this year I was going to do something again. I hadn't done any performing for a long time, so I decided this was the year to do it, and I joined a group, a course that came about, that I heard about, a mentoring course
Yes.
on cabaret
And that was
performance.
because right across Australia at the moment, and a couple of weeks ago, the cabaret festivals were in every capital city. And here in
Yeah.
Adelaide, we have a huge one. We have a cabaret festival, but we also have a cabaret fringe. that goes parallel with that. And that's what you became part of.
That's right, it was wonderful.
So your show consists of obviously a story, but it's also peppered with a lot of music and songs.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to put the story and the songs together?
Actually, no, and I would have always thought if you'd asked me could I do it, I would have said no. But at this program that I went to, they helped me with the subject matter, and it became about my life. And I was really surprised at how I went home and I was spending hours at night on the computer, which I normally don't, and I'm writing and coming up with songs that I can put in the show. And I was
But the
surprised.
truth is, everyone's got a story, but is the story going to be interesting to everybody else?
That's right.
And this concept of cabaret has really changed a lot of performers' way that we look at what a public want to see, really. And it's personal stories or stories about people.
Yeah.
But did you research what cabaret really means?
No, I didn't. But that was where this program that I did, one of the things we did learn was cabaret is about real life things.
Yeah.
And I was asked, would you be happy to do your story? And up to that moment, I didn't know if I could, but funnily enough, I thought,
Well, the program-
yeah.
Came easier than you
It
thought.
did. I
It was
thought, well,
fun.
I kind of want to get out there and tell my story.
Well, the program was
if
called
anyone's
Cabaret
interested.
Uncorked, wasn't it? That
Cabaret
was just
Uncorked, yeah.
the opportunity for people to, get it, let it
Yeah.
get out.
Yeah.
The thing is, real cabaret is, initially, it started off as a political satire in a room that had drinks and food. That's
Yep.
the simple explanation of what cabaret really means.
Yeah.
And of course, it's evolved and developed, and now it's so diverse in what it can be. So we've got a little clip from your show that we'd love to show. And we need to just explain that you don't wear a white dress every day, but in this clip, you're talking about your life and what happened in your life, but we're not going to show that because people have to come and see
you.
Oh, because you're going to perform in Cabaret Under the Star.
That's right.
And hopefully we're doing a special again this year like we did last year
Fantastic.
of the opening night.
Yes.
And perhaps you'll be in it.
Okay, I'd love to.
So here's Jan from the program Cabaret Uncorked performing her show, which was called...
Never the Bridesmaid.
And until we see you on next time on OurTime, we'll leave you with Jan.
Yes, join us next time. Take care
Keep
of
yourself
yourself.
nice till then, and here's Jan Day.
There are two things that people in my life today don't know about me. And one is that once upon a time, cabaret and music theatre were a very big part of my life. And the other is that I've been married more than twice. I love